Today, we're gonna be comparing a $20,000 Light Bee versus a $20,000 Ultra Bee.
Only time you see my head down is when I'm praying. When my back is turned on, only time they wanna see it. Water on me, floor is cold as ice, I'm finna trade, yeah. And serve it to the people, they need hope, you know the name. It's the odds against me. Back against the wall, my strength.
So these two builds were purely what-if style builds. Very expensive, not the type of thing that you would probably invest your money into. You know, a $20,000 bike is pretty gnarly, but we wanted to see what the peak performance of these could be. And there's a lot of upgrades in the aftermarket world. So as we've built out all of our bikes, we've just wanted to see what the best paths to building a bike that ultimately suits your needs is. In the process, we've kind of developed two different bikes that are about as gnarly as you can take them. I mean, pretty much the only thing left on them that's considerably Surron is the frame. Each one of these builds behind me are definitely a unlimited budget, what could you build type bike. So I'm really excited to put them head to head, but to kind of determine what bike would best suit your needs, if you had an unlimited budget, I've come up with a couple of different categories. The first category is gonna be power output. Now each one of these bikes are pushing EBMX powertrains, so the power output can ultimately be very similar, but the different chassis are gonna tell me how much power I can actually put to the ground. We're gonna get into the handling of the bike. We're out here at Extreme Pace Park in Morgan, Utah. This is a very mid to full size bike track, so it's gonna be interesting to see ultimately how the Light Bee does in comparison to the Ultra Bee. But handling is gonna be a key factor, especially when you're pushing as much power as you are out of these bikes. The next is gonna be reliability. The faster you make something, the more likely it's gonna be to break. These bikes have both had extensive upgrades, making them as strong as they possibly can be. We're gonna see how that goes, but I'll judge it off of its reliability for sure. And then last but not least, in fact, I think it's probably the most important thing, is the fun factor of actually riding these bikes. I think we're all into electric bikes for one specific reason, and that's because every time you throw your leg on one, it's probably one of the most fun bikes you've ever ridden. So, which bike at the end of the day do I ultimately have more fun on? So in front of me is my fully modified Surron Light Bee X. This bike has got an EBMX powertrain, so it's got the X9000 controller and the XLB60 motor. It's also got a 72 volt, 40 amp hour QS8 race battery, so it can push really high power out of this machine. I think you can push up to 35 kilowatts at a peak. That's a lot of power for a bike this size. But then I had to beef up the rest of the chassis to be able to absorb that. So I've got EXT suspension, I've got the EXT Ferro on the front and the Arma MX on the rear. I moved this bike over to 1821s, basically made it the biggest bike that I could. So thank you Warp 9 for building this bike out into what it is. And then to put that power down, I also had to do an extended swing arm. With all the power this bike can produce, you need a way to slow it down. So I've got 220 rotors on this bike, as well as TRP brakes. The TRPs are one of the best mountain bike style brakes that you can get. There's a lot of brakes coming to the market soon that will probably outweigh these, but at the moment, this is one of the best brakes that you can get on the market. There's a lot going on this bike. Like I said, pretty much the only thing that's still Surron is the frame on it, but this is a pretty ultimate build for what you can do on a Light Bee. This is the Race Ultra Bee that we've built. This bike is very similar to the Light Bee in terms of being completely built out. However, it's got some minor differences. This bike is also boasting an EBMX powertrain. It's got the X9000 controller, same controller that is on the Light Bee, but it has an XUB80 motor, which is the motor that's developed for the Ultra Bee. It's also got an 80 volt, 76 amp hour battery. So that is a huge battery that can produce a lot of power. This bike can peak at 40 kilowatts, which is pretty insane. So with all that, you need really good suspension. So I've got the Cirrus F43 front fork on this bike and the Cirrus R46 rear shock. It's got an awesome tune inside of it. It's a great hybrid between aggressive trail riding and motocross. So I think it's gonna do pretty well out at this track. We might wanna go a little bit more aggressive on a track like this, but ultimately we'll see how it goes. From that point, I've got a bunch of Warp 9 components on this bike as well, 1821 wheels. I think the major difference between these wheels and the ones on the Light Bee is just a bigger tire that you can fit into the Ultra Bee. So having more traction is nice. It is a bigger bike. And then from that point, I need to be able to slow the bike down. This bike has got a 260 rotor on the front and a 240 rotor on the rear, but it is stock Surron Ultra Bee brakes. However, these are some of the better brakes in the market. They are a much more moto style brake, especially in comparison to the full mountain bike style brakes on the Light Bee, but I think they'll get the job done for what we need them for. So without further ado, I say we get warmed up and start riding.
They hate when you elevate. The second of losses, I'm hanging on my head to go delegate. It feel like I'm floating, I'm lost in the moment, I swear I could levitate. They never believed that I would really fly, I had to go demonstrate. I had to set them straight. They hate when you elevate. Elevate, elevate. They hate when you elevate. Elevate, elevate. Yeah. They hate when you elevate. Elevate, elevate. They hate when you elevate. Yeah. I had to elevate. I'm way too fly. Yeah, I'm feeling myself. Ain't no chance of coming down. No, gotta so feel myself. But when I give it up, why do they wanna come take my place? I work too hard for it, don't need a replacement. It's my vocation. Now I got rollies all in rotation. Hop on a jet just to take a vacation. Remember the moments was trapped in the basement. Now the hard work is all taking me places. Starting all black like we trapped in the matrix. Bet on myself and go ball out in Vegas. Living a life like I'm rich and I'm famous. Don't see the grind that I know that it came with. I ain't making this far for myself. Set them straight, yeah. I had to ball, so I had to renovate. I know they hate when you elevate. The second of losses, I'm handing them out, yeah. I had to go delegate. It feel like I'm floating, I'm lost in the moment. I swear I could levitate. They never believed that I would really fly. I had to go demonstrate. I had to set them straight. They hate when you elevate. Elevate, elevate. They hate when you elevate. Elevate, elevate. They hate when you elevate. They hate when you elevate. I had to elevate. Ooh, yeah. Why they wanna put me down?
All right, we're here on the Ultra Bee. Let's get kind of warmed up. This track is really dry today. It's such an awesome layout, but it's really technical, so I'm stoked to try it. Here's our filmer Hudson, stoked to get after it, dude. Let's get a feel for things. Come in, double. It's kind of cool, you can land down on the deck. Couple of rollers. Those might be kind of gnarly on a Light Bee. This is a pretty big finish line right here. Seat down flat, table, double one. I don't know if I can hit that triple, that's big. That's a big double too. This track has got some technical stuff. Up into the trees, come flying down, come into a little hip. Really dry, slick corner. Come up over a hip. Triple. This double is actually kind of, that one's technical. We'll see how that goes later on. I'll tell you what though, this bike is like sick on this track. Those are some high speed rollers there. Oh, this track is sick. Up into those hills, from rocketing down. Oh, that was a big case. All right, so if we're talking about power, this bike has got a lot of it. It's actually extremely difficult to put it to the ground right now, and I'm not even near the top level of power. I think I'm only at like 25 kilowatts. I'm running a lot of phase ounce though. There's a lot of torque involved with this bike right now. I'd say I'm at like 900 phase amps, so the amount of torque's pretty wild. But man, the power, this bike, everything about it's fun, because I feel like, you know, this track is right within reach of what it is for this machine. It's gonna be actually very gnarly on a Light Bee, but that might make it fun too, you know. If we're talking about reliability, this bike is pretty reliable. Like, I've cased quite a few jumps. Nothing feels like it's loose at all. In fact, everything is put together so well. The suspension is absorbing all these hits incredibly, but you can't really ask for more than that. Especially when I like make mistakes and kind of come up short on things. It makes such a huge difference. If you don't got suspension, jumps like this are so gnarly. But I got suspension, so I'm able to really push it. See, I just cased that pretty hard and the bike took it. Dude, the Ultra Bee is like killing it out here. Like, these jumps are big, but everything feels within reach of what this bike can do. Like, I don't feel like I'm overstretching, which I know when I get on that Light Bee, probably everything's gonna be a stretch. But that also kind of ups the fun factor a little bit, because it really gets the blood flowing and gets you a little bit nervous. But, you know, we'll see how it goes when I hop on that bike.
Swing low like a gold-plated crucifix. Holy heart, hang Christ on a Cuban link. Do it my way, do it my way. Blood in my veins, the Messiah is alive. You can hear her in my swing low like a gold-plated crucifix. Holy heart, hang Christ on a Cuban link. Do it my way, do it my way. Blood in my veins, the Messiah is alive. You can hear her in my swing low like a gold-plated crucifix. Holy heart, hang Christ on a Cuban link. Do it my way, do it my way. Blood in my veins, the Messiah is alive. You can hear her in my swing low like a gold-plated crucifix. Holy heart, hang Christ on a Cuban link. Do it my way, do it my way. Blood in my veins, the Messiah is alive. You can hear her in my. Should've left a long time ago. It's like 5 below.
Alright, we're on the fully modified Light Bee. We got 3 different modes on this bike. I've got 15 kilowatts, 20 kilowatts, and 25 kilowatts right now. The bike is capable of more, but with how dry it is out here, I don't know that I want more. And yeah, we'll see how it goes. These jumps are really, really technical, so it's gonna be, you know, I'd be surprised if I do some of the bigger ones, just because of how small this bike is. Short travel suspension is a little bit scary. This bike is so powerful for how small it is. It's crazy.
That's so sick! Holy crap, this is so fun! Oh man, that was a big jump for a Light Bee right there. Let's talk about some power output on this machine. I'm actually only at 15 kilowatts right now. Like I said before, I tuned it up to 25. I don't even think I'm going to use that just because this bike is, for how lightweight it is, it's so powerful. Like I really don't feel like I need any more than what I'm at right now. Now my torque's pretty high. I'm at 600 phase amps, so I've got a decent amount of torque. This bike is capable of doing 1,000 phase amps, but I can tell you right now, I would be just spinning everywhere if I were to use that more. So this 15 is like pretty awesome because I can control it extremely well. The fact that 15 is enough to hit a jump of that caliber is kind of crazy. If we were to get into handling, there's certain jumps on this track I don't want to hit. Like this is one of them. I just have to nail that, and I'm kind of scared to find the timing on this bike. But it handles extremely well. These 1821 wheels with these vintage Dunlop tires, they're hooking up better than I was expecting them to on such a smooth, dry track, which is awesome. This is another jump that I don't want to miss time and come up short on. And then I'm actually really surprised at how well the EXT suspension is handling all of these hits. Like this is really impressive how well I'm hitting all of these jumps. Like I'm not going through full travel on anything. Such a fun ride. To try to hit stuff this big on a Light Bee is just so crazy. But I will say, like, reliability wise, I'm being really gentle on the throttle. Like, I'm not winding up the bike at all when I go to land, because the axles on this bike are extremely firm. This bike is so fast. And it turns on a dime.
You know, I'm blown away by the fact that this bike can even hit jumps like that. But in all reality, if you're on a Light Bee, you're probably not going to be riding a full-size motocross track. I think it's cool that you can and you can push that limit. It's pretty gnarly though, because if you mess up, you might be in a bad position. I mean, no matter how good your suspension is, and EXT is unbelievable for being able to absorb any of this, it's only 8 inches of travel. Even the Ultra Bee is only 11 or something like that. It's not full-size suspension like a motocross bike would be, so you have to kind of play on the side of caution when it comes to that. But this bike would really perform in really tight situations. So if you're on like kind of a tight supercross track or kind of playing around, this bike is sick for that. Man, what an awesome morning it's been out here testing both of these bikes on this track. It's really cool to ride them head to head. I've never actually compared them in that sense, but I will say if you're looking for a bike that's a little bit more serious, the Ultra Bee is definitely the way to go. It just has a lot more forgiveness on, you know, a larger track with technical jumps like this, whereas the Light Bee, I have to be super precise. But if you were to ask me which one was more fun, that's tough, because although this one felt more capable, this one, when I did the big jumps, put the biggest smile on my face. I mean, that was so cool to see such a small, powerful bike. It's like throwing a race car engine into a Honda Civic. I mean, that's a super fun bike to just get out there and play around on. But if you're looking for a bike that's gonna be super reliable, have extremely amazing power, and just overall perform incredibly, the Ultra Bee is probably the one to go with. So it's tough to say, you know, to each their own. What kind of riding you do is really gonna define which chassis that you wanna be on. But it's super cool that there is so much versatility in the aftermarket to build these bikes into whatever you want them to be. These are kind of set up for a motocross track. You can set them up for the streets, you can set them up for enduro. It really doesn't matter. You've got the chassis to produce whatever bike you want it to be. So a huge thank you to Extreme Pace Park for letting me come out here and ride. He does a lot of coaching, so if you're looking to improve your skills, definitely get out here and get a lesson with him. He is incredible about it. There's also a race coming up this October out in California in Honolulu Hills. That is a race you're gonna wanna be at. It's a World Cup race for electric bikes. Be sure to check that out. I'm gonna throw in a video right after this, kinda showing you the gist of what that's gonna be like, but really stoked to get out there and race. So stay tuned for October and get yourself ready on whatever bike you feel is best to get out there and race.
We'll see you at the Electric Motocross World Championship Saturday, October 19th at Honolulu Hills Raceway in Taft, California.